Hey guys, Raichu here back with another guide. This time I'm actually going to do a full in-depth warrior guide for you guys. There's going to be a lot of stuff that I cover that I think is going to be helpful to a lot of people. There's also going to be a lot of basic stuff that I'm going to cover in here that I think is going to help a lot of new players. So I think some of the information in here is going to apply to either, the sweats or the extremely hardcore people, but also your brand new beginner people. So stick around. A little bit about me. I fell in love with hardcore on the original add-on days on Blood Cell Buccaneers. I'll show you guys my first warrior actually that I hit 60 with on Blood Cell Buccaneers. So this was my first warrior right here, and I've pretty much been a tank forever. I love the responsibility of tanking. I love the fact that a lot of people rely on you. You have to be completely repaired, and if you're not, it can be pretty bad. Especially in a raid environment. There's a lot that goes into raiding, and you have to be prepared. So there's a lot of minor stuff, but not so minor stuff that I'm going to cover. And I'm also going to cover stuff that's not mainstream knowledge, as far as like threat mechanics and things like that. I will show you my warrior on Defias Pillager. However, I died in the belly of Thun on AQ40. I'll show you the clip, but I didn't want to delete this character. I did transfer it to White Main, so and I've never played it on White Main, but just to kind of give you an idea, this was my warrior on Defias Pillager. So we were one of the main tanks for the raid. We got AQ40 gear, all of this stuff, CTS, and I again I was a tank here. So and then here we are on Doomhowl. We're on Horde, which is the anniversary server. So just to kind of give you guys an idea, as far as credibility or who I am and where I'm coming from, I absolutely love tanking. So I figured I'd put together this guide, cover a bunch of stuff, and hopefully it helps. So thanks, guys. Well, one thing that I did want to put in here is I am trying to grow my community. If you guys find some useful information in here that helped you out, put a comment, like, subscribe. It goes a long way for me, especially because I'm pretty small. I also do stream live on Twitch, so if you guys want to come over and hang out with me live on Twitch, ask me any questions, hang out, you're more than welcome. I also have my Discord link in here as well, where there's a lot of information in the Discord link, such as macros, weak auras, everything that I'm using. So all that's going to be in there for you guys too. Thanks again. I appreciate you. So, as promised, here's the clip of my warrior dying in AQ40 on Defias Pillager. I want to start by addressing my mouth breathing, which I didn't even realize, but this is the highest viewed clip that I have, which is funny. It is what it is. Basically, just so you guys know how this fight works, is when you're in the belly of Thun, there's this stacking debuff, and it accumulates stacks as the fight progresses. So you have to kill these tentacles in order to actually get to the boss itself and kill the boss. So people are constantly rotating into the stomach, and then they take this elevator out right here. So this guy's going to take the elevator right now. Then this warrior is going to go in and DPS for a little bit. Once he gets enough stacks, then he's going to take the elevator and get launched out. You'll see what happened here with me and why this was where I was like, you know what, I need to take a break. I need to step away for a little bit. This warrior was my baby. There was so much time and effort that went into this warrior, and when I died and the way I died here, it was pretty heartbreaking. But here's the clip for you guys.
Oh my god.
We'll watch it one more time for good measure. So this guy goes to take the elevator. I'm not even on it. Wasn't
Oh
expecting
my
that to
god.
happen at all. Tried to Petri, still took damage from the stomach. That was really painful for me right there. The first thing that I'm going to cover when it comes to dungeon taking that not a lot of people are aware of is your battle shout actually generates threat. So these next couple clips that you're going to see, there's two of them, and you're going to see me pull the initial mob, and then you're going to see me battle shout, and it immediately gets on the aggro table, and all of the mobs are going to be coming over to me, which makes my life as a tank a whole lot easier. Because if you don't battle shout and get on that threat table immediately, if a healer does anything, there's anybody that does anything that causes threat, instead of everyone coming to you, they're just running around, and it makes it a whole lot harder to hold initial threat. On the second clip, you're going to see my nameplates. So when the nameplate is purple, that means that they're attacking me. If it's red, it means they're not on me. So on the second clip that I'm going to show you, you'll see me shoot the initial mob. You'll see the nameplates of the other mobs are red. The second my battle shout goes out, it turns purple, and they all start running over to me. So that little tip right there is pretty big. And the threat that it generates from your battle shout depends on how many people actually get buffed in your party from the battle shout. So if you're doing a pull and you run over to the corner, if you're able to just run to your group real quick, toss a quick battle shout, and get back into position, it's just going to make your life a whole lot easier. I also recommend, for situations like this where there's a lot of mobs, have like some solid dynamites or some dense dynamites. And when everything gets clumped up, what I like to do is I'll toss. So I do the initial battle shout, and then I like to toss a dynamite once the group is all grouped up, and then I'll demo shout. And at that point, that's enough to start really working on the important mobs, which you'll see me doing here. But that's my first tip for you guys. Tip number one. In the description of this video, I also am going to have a link to my Discord as well as my Twitch. But in that Discord, when you join, I'm going to have posted every add-on that I use and every macro that I use. And it's all spelled out for you guys in there too. So make sure if you need the macros or that you want to know the add-ons that I use, it's all in there for you.
They fucking sniff you out, bro.
Oh, they sniff my shit, bro.
Just, yes.
No owl gap right now.
Actually, just let the fucking light on pet.
Just need 2 more holy water.
Hello, I thought that was a glitch last time. No,
Do
you
we
you
get
can
them
skip
instead
them.
as well, or are you saying?
Not
Sometimes.
but I mean,
Sometimes.
we have this
There's a
time.
little bit of
But yeah,
bugs in
definitely be
Ontario,
careful
so
though.
Yeah.
the market's kinda bugged out.
I'll just let him get them all then this time. Maybe one of us can finish the quest.
This is a bad box. No open.
He says as he opens.
I wasn't even near it.
No, that was the room.
I did not fucking open that. What are you talking about?
There's another one straight ahead.
I'm checking. Bad.
How bad?
Got a ghoul in this one too.
You go to the.
I'll probably just shoot the goal.
Yeah, that's like.
Fucking castles, bro.
All right, then the next tip that I have for you guys is the importance of pooling your rage from one mob pack to another. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I mentioned this to them, and they just it wasn't even something that they thought about, so I figured I would include this. If you watch my rage as we're going through the fight and as we're going through killing everything, my job as a tank is to hold threat. My job isn't to do DPS. So I'm not dumping my rage every second I can. And I'm not like spamming heroic strike and spamming, bloodthirst or whatever it may be. I'm looking at the mob. I'm looking at the threat that I have on the mob. Once I start to lose a little bit of threat, yes, then I'm going to use moves to regain that threat. But I'm purposely saving as much rage as I possibly can from one pack to the other. That way, if I do have to dump rage for something happening or whatever, I can. And it just makes tanking a whole lot easier. So I try to pool as much rage as I can from one pack to the other, and I try to spend as little rage as I possibly can to just make my life easier going through the dungeon. So that would be tip number 2.
I holy light, bro. Holy light.
All right, we can go down. How are you doing today, Ons? How's your day going, man? I'm gonna pull these back. You can sheep on the source if you want.
Oh, we're killing it.
Break the volume.
I would have actually.
I was standing there for a second watching where Nesper was.
I mean, if that's what he's gonna do, I'm doing it, bro.
Nah, bro, I mean, that's my point. I mean, I gotta back him up. But...
On this next clip that you're about to watch, if you look at the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, you'll actually see the buttons that I'm pressing. The next thing that I'm going to cover here is your highest generating threat abilities as a warrior. And believe it or not, if you actually read the tooltip, it says it, but your highest generating threat ability is going to be Heroic Strike. A lot of people think it might be Bloodthirst or Sunder Armor or Revenge, and it's not. Heroic Strike is going to be your #1 threat generating ability, but the challenge with that is Heroic Strike is queued up with your next auto attack, whereas Bloodthirst is instant. It's an instant attack. Bloodthirst does do a good deal of threat generation, especially if you're in defensive stance, but your order of operations would be Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst, depending on the situation, but Heroic Strike, Bloodthirst. I also, when I'm tanking dungeons on an initial pull, I will start with a Heroic Strike followed by a Sunder. Then I'll tab over to the next target, Heroic Strike followed up by a Sunder. When Revenge pops up, I use that too, but it's all situational. So you just keep in mind that your #1 threat generating ability as a warrior is going to be Heroic Strike.
Yeah, so I stood up and almost died.
I can go wrong with a cannon.
I might get shot with a cannon, by the way.
It's been fun.
You look kind of goofy up there.
Thank you. I don't think there's a place for me to stand in there currently. Otherwise I would. He's dead.
The next question that I get asked often is when to use a shield. Again, this is something that also comes from game knowledge, but my recommendation is if you're worried about the damage that a mob would do to you or a boss would do to you, um, play safe. Equip a shield. Especially in this clip that you're about to see. The second that I know that I have a solid threat lead and I don't have to worry about pulling thread or anything like that, switch to a shield. I know that this boss turns into a demon, and then there's a stun that happens, and this boss also does a lot of damage. So you'll notice in the clip, the second that I have an established threat lead and I'm good, I switch to a shield. I will also, you'll see in the clip, I last stand right before I know he's about to do his transition into the demon form, just to give me some extra health. So if you think that a mob is going to hit you really hard or do a lot of damage, switch to a shield. I also have my shield block built into my shield block. It automatically switched to a shield for me. I'll cover macros and things like that a little bit later. But definitely like the ogres in Dire Maul, the brutes, they hit like a truck. So anything that you're worried, or if I see my health is dropping down to 50% or I'm getting low, I'm immediately pressing my macro and I'm switching to a shield. So things like that you got to just get used to. But that would be my advice when it comes to a shield. A lot of the times you don't necessarily need to use a shield, but when in doubt, toss it on.
Easy enough.
Let's do it. I'm gonna last stand here just for the extra health when he turns into the demon.
Like, shorter range than else.
And then I'm gonna shield wall here just because.
Go see the pet.
Into
All
the
good.
pet. Alright.
Feared DPD. All good.
Boom. GG's.
Neck.
Neck.
The next thing that I want to cover with you guys is I get asked a lot, especially from like newer warriors, what's your take on plus defense on gear? And I'm gonna read to you what defense is, just so we're all on the same page, and then I'll cover my take. So each point in plus defense skill adds 0.04% to the player's chance to be missed, to dodge, and to parry before diminishing returns are taken into account, and adds 0.04% to the player's chance to block with no diminishing returns. This means plus 25 defense will grant you an extra 1% to miss, parry, dodge, and block. So that's how defense works. My take on defense is you're giving up threat, however, you're going to be a lot tankier and you're going to take significantly less damage. I'd recommend seeking out plus defense items for a fresh 60 tank. Once you have a baseline of gear, then you can start to really go after what's going to be best for you. And just so you guys know, you can easily find a gear guide on what would be best in slot for you for your current phase online at either Icy Veins or Wowhead. So that's my take on defense, plus defense to gear. The next thing that I'm going to address is hit cap for warrior and also plus weapon skill and what that actually means. So a lot of people they'll just go look at a guide and be like, "Oh, it tells me that I need to get this and this and this is the piece of gear that I need," but they have absolutely no idea what it actually means behind the scenes and why you need that. So we're going to cover plus hit first. So hit cap for a warrior without plus weapon skill, and we'll cover this in depth here in a second, is 9%. If you have plus 5 weapon skill, that 9% then goes down to 6%. So as long as you have 305 weapon skill, your hit cap is at 6% instead of 9%. And the reason why you go after plus weapon skill to items is because of what's called a glancing blow. So how a glancing blow works is in classic World of Warcraft, a glancing blow refers to a type of attack that deals significantly reduced damage when hitting an enemy, usually occurring when fighting a mob of similar or higher level, essentially meaning the attacks only grazed the target instead of landing a full hit. It's a mechanic that reduces the effectiveness of basic white attacks against stronger enemies. Okay, so to move forward, to completely avoid glancing blows in classic WoW, you need to reach a weapon skill of 308 and have at least 6% hit. So as long as you have that extra 5% weapon skill, you only need 6% hit. But to further reduce your chance of getting a glancing blow, you want to be at 308, which is why Edge Masters is so good, as it gives you plus 7 to weapon skill. So that's kind of how glancing blow works. So you need a weapon skill of 308 and have at least 6% hit rating. This essentially means you need to be fully hit capped with your weapon skill and hit rating combined, as the chance of a glancing blow is reduced significantly once you reduce this threshold. So when people are choosing what race is going to be best, this is why a lot of DPS orcs, or they go orcs, is because the orc racial gives you right off the bat plus 5 to axes. And you'll see a lot of DPS that are humans. The human racial gives you plus 5 to swords. So you don't need any additional gear, and you only need to get that 6% hit cap because you already have that plus 5 weapon skill from either axes or swords. So that's why as a DPS, you see a lot of people go orcs or they go humans. To add to that, I play hardcore, and my take on this is yes, if you want to be super sweaty, absolutely, play the meta. My mentality is play what's fun. This is a video game, and I play it for fun. I play an undead warrior. I'm one of the main tanks for the guild. I would like to think that I'm extremely good at what I do. But I play undead because I like the animations of undead. I like that when I kill something, I can go eat their corpse. Like, it's fun to me, you know. And at the end of the day, this is a video game. But I'm trying to cover here the background of everything rather than just simply looking at a guide and being like, okay, that's the piece of gear that I need. But at the end of the day, play what you enjoy playing. There's different combinations of gear that you can get that will allow you to get away with not being an orc or not being a human. So you're not like stuck in having to play these classes. I want you guys to understand that. So let's further go into this. So again, hit cap is 9%. If you have the 305 weapon skill, it goes down to 6%. So this is why Edge Masters is so good, is because Edge Masters gives you +7 skill to swords, axes, and daggers. So that's why everyone's going after Edge Masters, is because that one piece of gear alone allows them to play an undead or a torn or whatever it is, and they only need to get that 6% hit cap. So that's why everyone goes after edgies. A couple pieces of gear just to show you guys. Let me do this here. Let me get my webcam out of the way. So a couple pieces of gear. In Dire Maul, if you are going for daggers, you can get the Mugger's Belt off of Crom Crush. So that's one thing that you can do. In Molten Core, there's Aged Core leather gloves. These give you +5 to daggers. This is off a world boss, so this is probably going to be pretty tough to get unless you're in a solid guild. But Circlet of Restless Dreams drops off Emrys. It's a world boss. This gives you +6 to daggers, and this is a helm. Again, this is also something that's going to be probably pretty far off for a lot of guilds, but Death Sting and AQ 40. This gives you +3 to daggers. One other thing that I want to cover here is Obsidian Edge Blade gives you +8 to two-hand swords. Edge Master's Handguards +7 to swords, axes, daggers. One important thing here to note, guys, is Edge Master's Handguards does not give you plus weapon skill for two-handed weapons. It's only one-handed weapons. So as you can see here, Obsidian Edged Blade gives you +8 to two-handed sword skill. So keep in mind that Edge Masters is only for one-handed weapons. Okay. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to cover how I would level a fresh warrior and my leveling progression as far as talent points go. So I'll kind of explain it first and then I'll cover it. But I will level 1 to 30 as Fury. As soon as I get to 30, I will then switch over to Arms for sweeping strikes, which I'll cover here in a second. But as far as initial leveling goes, I'll start off as Fury. We'll get 5 points in Cruelty, which is an extra 5% chance to crit. Then we'll put 5 points in Unbridled Wrath, which gives you an additional chance to generate Rage when you do damage. Then we're going to go ahead and max out Improved Battle Shout, which is just an overall improvement to your overall damage, which is fantastic. Then we will go into Dual Wield Specialization. So at this point, you're 29. As soon as you hit 30, you can put that point into Death Wish, but at this point is where I will go in and I'll respec. Also at 30, just so you know, in Razorfen Crawl or RFK, there's a weapon called Corpse Maker that you can get. It's a two-handed axe. It's ideal for warrior at 30. I think it's level 29 or 30 that you can use it. But at this point, we're going to respec. So we're 30, we're going to respec, and how the initial points will go will be deflection, and then we're going to put the 3 points in rend. Then we're going to max out tactical mastery. I absolutely love tactical mastery because it allows you to kind of like stance around. Once you get higher levels, you can stance, intercept, charge, things like that. If you get like knocked into the air, you could just quickly intercept back with tactical mastery. It just makes playing warrior a lot of fun. We will also get anger management. Anger management is awesome because you just have, it makes you have an obscene amount of rage all the time, even out of combat. Then at this point, we're going to go 3 points into deep wounds. This puts us at level 23. Then we can start putting points into overpower, which is also phenomenal for an arms warrior. Put 1 point in overpower. Our next 2 points are going to go into impale. Then at this point, we can put 1 more point into overpower, get that maxed out. Then we will put 2 points into two-handed weapon specialization. Then we get the meat and potatoes of arms. So we'll get sweeping strikes. So the way sweeping strikes works, just to explain it to you guys, is you have cleave, and then you also have sweeping strikes. So you'll hear people say sweeping strikes cleave them down, or whatever it is. But when you use sweeping strikes, your sweeping strikes will operate off of your cleave because the cleave is counted as one move. So when you pop sweeping strikes and you cleave something, your cleave is going to go off, and then the sweeping strikes is going to go off of the cleave. So you're actually hitting each mob on one cleave. You're hitting each mob twice. So at this point, when you get a good two-handed weapon or a corpse maker and use sweeping strikes, you start pulling two mobs. You use sweeping strikes and cleave them down. You go pull two mobs, sweeping strikes, and cleave them down. So it makes your leveling a whole lot faster and easier. And then when you get to level 36, that's where it really gets fun because you get whirlwind, and your sweeping strikes will actually go off of the whirlwind. So what warriors will do in dungeons, and this is actually where you'll see warriors start to two-hand tank in dungeons, because they just pop sweeping strikes. They'll stay in battle stance, save up the rage for sweeping strikes. As soon as they pop sweeping strikes, they will immediately switch over to berserker stance, and then they'll use whirlwind, and your sweeping strikes will go off of your whirlwind, and it's just like this explosion of damage. So that's why we respec to sweeping strikes at 30. And then our next points, we're going to go into axe specialization, which is another reason why that I think corpse maker is either 29 or 30, but you get it from RFK, and it's an axe, so you're getting an extra 5% crit if you're able to get corpse maker. Next points, we don't really want any of these. So the next points, we're going to finish putting points into two-handed weapon specialization. At this point, you're going to have 1 point left over. It's entirely up to you on what you want to do. Me personally, I like passives. So you can just use, I like putting the point in parry. You can put it in charge, get an extra 3 points from your charge if you want to, but we'll do that. And then this basically gets us to Mortal Strike. Now, what I will do is I will swap back to Fury at this point, because I am not a fan of arms. I know that in when it comes to like running dungeons and things like that, the damage output that you get from sweeping strikes whirlwinding in dungeons is not going to compare to Fury. But we play hardcore, and as you're leveling, you can only do one dungeon a day. So unless you're like really slowly leveling or you hardly play your character, more often than not, you're going to be by yourself out in the open world, and you're going to be doing questing. So at 40, I like to respec Fury, because you can actually get two really good one-handed weapons. You get the Sword of Omen from the Scarlet Monastery quest chain, and then you can also get the Vanquisher Sword from the RFD quest chain. And if you put Fiery on both of those weapons, or you put Crusader, if you have the money to do that, if you put Crusader on both of those weapons, your damage is just going to be insane. So as far as the talent progression, when it comes to when I respec at Fury, this is what it'll look like. And one other thing before I forget, another reason why I'm just not a fan of arms is I think it's Whirlwind Axe is like 3.7 swing time or 3.8 swing time, and any warrior that's been playing warrior for a long time is going to hear this, and they're going to completely understand what I'm talking about. But I can't stand how dodge, miss, dodge, parry. Oh, you're overpower procs, parry. It drives me crazy. And sometimes I'm going, 30 seconds without doing any damage output whatsoever. It just drives me absolutely crazy. So this is another reason why I will respec Fury at this point. But this is what it'll look like. So same as last time, 5 into Cruelty. We'll put the 5 points in Unbridled Wrath. We'll pick up Battle Shout. We'll do the dual wield specialization. Of course, we're going to get Death Wish. Then we get Enrage. Then we get Flurry. And then we get Bloodthirst. Now, what I like to do at this point is I like to get also 3 points. So my next 3 points are going to go into Blood Craze. So between Bloodthirst, Blood Craze, And if you're using a strong Troll's Blood potion while you're leveling, the health regeneration that you get from all of that comba- com- compounded over time is a lot. To give you an example, I was having a conversation with a shaman the other day, and he was telling me about how he disliked Manatee Totem, and I was saying to him, well, like on one specific fight and on one specific encounter, yeah, it may not be that much, but think about how much mana you've actually regenerated over the course of 10, 15, 20 levels. It's insane. And when I explained it to him that way, he was like, "Oh, I never thought about it that way." So, it's the same concept here with Blood Craze, your strong Troll's Blood potion, and then also Bloodthirst. So, when I'm Fury at this point with those two one-handed swords that I was talking about, I'm going, 5, 6, 7, 8 mobs before I actually have to stop and use a bandage or heal or whatever. Whereas when I was arms, it's the pull two mobs. You're taking the damage from the two mobs, kill them, and then you got to eat. Pull two mobs, kill them. So I like Fury more for that reason alone. But the slow weapon swing time drives me absolutely nuts. So I'm a massive fan of Fury. So we'll put the points in there. Another tip that I can give you guys is I also like to get improved Berserker Rage because it's just another move that you can use. It's going to give you 10 Rage, and then you also have your Blood Fury, which generates Rage for you as well. So you got two moves that generate Rage whenever you need it. At this point, your remaining points, it's up to you on how you want to do it. Um, Typically what I'll do is I'll go we'll do the same arm spec, and we can start working on this and then going down. But as far as the rest of the way that you want to structure it and set it up, that it's totally up to you. But as far as the leveling progression, that's typically how I would do it. The next thing that I'm going to go over is one of the largest quality of life add-ons out there when it comes to a tank, and I'll explain why and what it is here in a second. It's pretty self-explanatory, but that add-on is going to be called Item Rack. And the reason why this is so huge is because you can actually go in and you can set sets for whatever you want to set your sets at, and then you can have a keybind for each one of those sets. So, for example, I have a fire res set, I have a diamond flash set, I have my DPS set, I have my riding set, and I have my tanking set. So I can assign a keybind to each one of these sets, and I can quickly swap around to whatever I'm looking for. So for example, I have all of my fire res gear. So when I'm tanking Ragnaros and Molten Core, I can easily switch over to my fire res gear. So if you look right here, here's my fire res, and then here's the gear that I'm currently equipped. And if I press the key binding for my fire res gear, boom, it automatically swaps over to it. So I don't have to worry about anything. If I need to swap back to my tank gear, press the keybind. Boom, automatically swaps over to my tank gear. If I need to go to my riding set, boom, I have my carrot on a stick, I have my gloves that have my mithril spurs, and then I have the gloves that have my mount speed. So between these three, that increases my mount speed by an additional 20%. So it just makes being a warrior tank a whole lot easier, um, rather than you kind of like sifting through your bags trying to figure out where all of your stuff is. As long as you know what's in your bag, all you got to worry about is just pressing the key bind. So this is probably like the largest add-on that I would recommend. Like you need to get if you're a warrior tank, just because it makes your life a whole lot easier. I guess if you played other classes too, you can have different sets or whatever it is, but especially for tank, you have your tank set, your DPS set, your flask set, your rolling around town in your transmog set, whatever it is. It just makes it a whole lot easier. And this the add-on is called Item Rack. The next thing that I'm going to cover with you guys, and again, this is in my Discord, right below the warrior macros, is every add-on that I use. So, Bag Brother, Bagnon, these just make your bag one big bag, makes it easier. DBM Boss Mods is pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty much required for any raider, but it just makes your life a whole lot easier while you're raiding. Atlas Loot is going to show you every piece of gear that is able to drop in a dungeon, so you can just kind of like look and see what's in a dungeon you may or may not be running. Also, not a lot of people know is there's Atlas Loot Anniversary, which is actually going to show you on your Atlas Loot the gear that's available and what phase that gear is actually available. So that's a huge one there. This is probably my favorite add-on that I have. It's called Buff Check 3, but it's this bar right here. And this is just a massive quality of life while you're raiding. So how this works is you set up your BC, what is it? It's update. BC update. This screen is going to pop up, and then everything on the right hand side here is what's on this bar here. And I can go through and pick and choose and set it up however I want to set it up. But the way that it works is, let's say that I'm missing Elixir of Fortitude. As soon as I click this, it's going to take that button away. So I basically, while I'm raiding, this bar is never there, which means that all of my consumes are constantly on my character at all times. So I have this set up for every single consume that I need to have in a raid situation, so I make sure that I'm never missing any consumes. So that's a huge one there. Let's see here. Bug Grabber is an add-on that um, if there's any kind of like errors that your system has or errors from another add-on, it doesn't give you that full display thing, so it's not blowing up and spamming your chat. The other one, so this one, Character Stats Classic, just gives you more of a detailed view on like stats and gear and things like that. It just makes it a whole lot easier for you to review stuff. You have classic cast bars, classic heal prediction. So what this will do is if I have an incoming heal, so let's say that my health is low, but I have an incoming heal, it's going to show me that green area on how much that heal is actually coming through and where my health would be at. So that's a classic heal prediction. That's a big one. Death log. I mean, I don't wish death on anybody, but I mean, let's be real. It's kind of, we have some wild deaths that happen, and it's just, I want to see that alert. Details is the damage meter. Let's see here. What else? My whole system is built off of LVUI, the way that I have like my entire interface and everything set up. If you do want my LVUI string, I can give that for you. No problem. Just let me know. And you'll be able to get my whole setup just by importing the string. If you want, I can do that, no problem. We already covered item rack. This is another really cool one. So this one's called mini map button. And basically what this does is it's this button right here. So it takes off all of the clusters of all of the other buttons and everything that would otherwise be on my mini map, and it puts it all in here for me. So that just makes it super easy. It condenses everything up, kind of cleans up everything. We have Nova Instance Tracker, which lets me know how many instances I've run in an hour. That way I don't get locked out of instances. Once you hit 60, you can do 5 instances in an hour. So that one helps. Nova World Buffs gives you buff timers on your world map, so you can kind of see what's going on. Pawn is awesome for leveling. So what this will do is anytime you go talk to a vendor or whatever, it will automatically sell all gray items or trash items for you. So sometimes, like if I'm just like running by a vendor real quick, I'll open up the dialogue screen and it'll automatically just sell everything, and I'll just keep running. Questy is pretty self-explanatory. Rested experience guides. Safeguard is actually really, really nice to have. So what this will do is if I get, let's say I get stunned for 4 seconds in a dungeon, it will type out for me automatically in party chat, stunned for 4 seconds. If I get silenced, it'll say silenced 7 seconds. Whatever it is. If I'm hearthing, it'll type in party chat, I'm hearthing. So again, it just goes back to like the less that I have to do and the more that I can make my team aware of where I'm at or what I'm doing, the better. This one is sexy map. It just makes your map look like this, and you can change it and stuff like that. I think it's cool. Speedy auto loot makes you loot so fast that there's not even a dialogue box there, and it just goes real fast. So I like that one, especially when I'm trying to like power level. Threat Classic is your threat plates right here. Obviously, this is huge. That way, if you're DPS, you're not pulling off of the tank. You can look at the threat meters, and obviously, as a tank, I want to have this to make sure that I'm top threat. Let's see here. Vendor price. Unit scan is also a pretty important one. What this will do is when you download it, if you are, let's say for example, you're an Ungoro creator and you know the T-Rexes that are walking around there. If one pops into your, vicinity, it'll alert you and your screen will flash red and the name of the mob will pop up. So if I'm in an Ungoro crater, and a T-Rex is literally coming up behind me, it won't surprise me and it'll alert me and I'll be like, okay, where is it at? And I can get out of the way. Because I mean, I don't want to spend all this time leveling and then just die to some wild stuff like that. It'd be awful. I'm already investing enough time as it is playing the game and leveling. I don't want to lose it to something silly. Weak aura is self-explanatory. What's training? While you're leveling, this is a nice one. Basically, what it does is it's this one right here, and as you're leveling, it'll tell you, right at the top here, next level, level 12, you get, whatever it is. So sometimes as you're leveling, you might get to your next two levels or whatever it is, but the moves that you get from the trainer aren't even really that great. So you can just stay questing and you don't have to go check out what you get from the trainer because you don't really need it right away anyway. So you can just stay leveling, and then when you get to a point where you're like, okay, I can get this move now, then you just go train. So that's a nice one. And then this one is it's just a chat add-on. So when people message me, like a little instant messenger window pops up, and you can move the windows around and stuff like that. So these are the add-ons that I use. Again, they're all in my Discord for you guys. You could just come in, just take them, no problem. The whole goal of this guide is to help you guys out and make your life a little bit easier. This is actually what the unit scan looks like. So my whole screen flashed red and then Zeracotl, but it's a hunter's pet. Hunters basically name their pets after unit scan mobs because it gives people heart attacks thinking that something's near them and it's just a hunter's pet. I think it's funny. Next, what I'm going to cover is every consumable that a tank should be aware of. And what a lot of people don't realize is there are a lot of consumables that make your life a whole lot easier when tanking, and a lot of these are actually mandatory in a raid situation. I'm not going to cover every single thing on here just because it's a very long list, but what I will do is I'll put the link to this in the description of the video. So you can just click the link, it'll bring you right to here and it'll show you. Some of the lesser known ones, when you're, well, I mean, it's not lesser known, but Greater Stone Shield Potion, this should be used on boss fights when you are really worried about the damage output. This can also be used just in regular dungeons. This is something that increases your armor by 2,000 for an extra 2 minutes. So when you're in a raid tank environment or you're the main tank and you know the boss is going to be doing a lot of damage, you're definitely going to want to make sure that you have Stone Shield Potion on you. Let's see here. Um, Roids are blasted lance buffs. Not a lot of people know about this. When you do the quest, it's a blasted lance quest chain, and there's a ton of mobs that you have to kill, and it'll unlock the quest that you can get from the people. But the quests are repeatable. So before every raid, what I do is I actually go in and I get this one, lung juice cocktail. So me being a main tank, this gives me an extra 25 stamina, lasts for 60 minutes. You can also, if you want a little bit more threat, this is another blasted lands buff that gives you 25 strength. There's also this one here, ground scorpok essay, that gives you 25 agility. So before the raid, I will go to the auction house. I'll buy the materials for whichever one that I want, and I'll go get that to make sure that I have it for the raid. Flask of Titans is a no-brainer. 100% make sure that you're flasked without a doubt. Gift of Arthas is also something that not a lot of people know about, but increases your shadow resistance by 10. But if an enemy strikes the Imbibber or tank, the attacker has a 30% chance of being inflicted with a disease that increases their damage taken by 8 for 30 minutes, and that counts for raid wide. So every single tank should also be using Gift of Arthas, because that extra 8 damage across your entire raid is a significant amount of damage. So always have that if you're a tank. Let's see here. Is there anything else? Um, Again, I'm gonna put this list in the description. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else that's pretty major that pops out to me. Whipper root tubers. So I had mentioned this earlier in the video. Um, Whipper root tubers come from fellwood, and it's the same stuff needed that you cleanse a songflower with, but it's another plant. And how this works is your whipper root tuber goes off of the cooldown of your health stone. This it also goes off the cooldown of your like a target dummy, but it will go off of a separate cooldown from your health potion. So this is built into my oh shit macro that I was covering earlier, because you can actually have these in your inventory and use a health potion and the whipper root tuber at the same time. So it just gives you an extra heal. Let's see here. Anything else? Crystal charges, I'll cover. I can actually do that right now. So the crystal charges come from Ungoro, and there's the pylons in Ungoro on the sides of the crater. But a lot of people don't realize that you can actually turn these in for buffs. So crystal charge is 10 red plus 10 yellow. Let me zoom in on this for you. 10 red plus 10 yellow, and what it'll do is inflicts 383 to 500 fire damage to targets in a 3-yard radius. So this is a damage one. Crystal Restore, 10 yellow, 10 green, heals the target for 670 damage over 15 seconds. For a tank standpoint, you got this one down here, Crystal Spire. And realistically, the Crystal Spire is probably the only one that you're actually going to be using on a consistent basis, but this makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to tanking, especially in dungeons. So Crystal Spire, 10 blue, 10 yellow. A crystal shield surrounds the friendly target, doing 12 damage to anyone who hits him or her. Lasts for 10 minutes. So when you're in a situation like, let's say, the first couple pulls in Strat Undead or Strat Live that have all of those mobs, if you use one of these, every time they hit you, it's going to do 12 damage, plus the additional threat factors that come into play with you and defensive stance and all that stuff. So it just makes your life a whole lot easier when it comes to tanking. So I'll put this detailed list of the consumes and everything in the description of the video for you, just to make it easier for you guys. That is it for the guide. Guys, I put a lot of time and energy into this. I spent time asking multiple people, like, hey, what do you think? What would be useful? What do you think people would want to know? I really put a lot of time into this. So, again, if you guys wouldn't mind, like, comment, subscribe, come join us on Twitch. Again, I'm small potatoes. I'm just trying to help out as many people as I can. And, any support that I get from you guys really, really does mean a lot to me. So I really hope this helps. And then if there's anything specific, maybe that you want me to cover or talk about, drop a comment below. But thank you guys. Stay safe, stay alive. I'll see you next one.